So recently Tumblr dropped a new feature called Communities, which, if I had to explain it, is essentially Tumblr realizing they messed up big time in the social media group project, and at 11:58 before the slides were due, they stole the part Facebook was going to present, and ended up yapping about the group segment without ever running it by Facebook first. That's to say it's a Facebook groups clone. It's literally just Facebook groups if it had Tumblr's pristine post formatting. Regardless, when this feature was announced, I was interested because, you know, this is Tumblr. Of course people are going to do something crazy with this. I saw bug race and vanilla extract cake with my own 2 eyes when polls dropped. These people will not let a feature go untouched. Unless it's Tumblr TV. Regardless, there was no saga community, so there was no participation from me. At least that was the case. Until the ants came. The story I am about to recount to you is one I never in a million years would have thought I would be in a position where I could talk about it in this way, and one that I find beyond hilarious. This is a story of overcoming hardships, forming new bonds, accidental apocalypse survival simulation, finding community and brothership in the most absurd of times, and, most importantly, a bunch of internet people screwing off and partaking in only the silliest of shenanigans. This is the... sorry, hold on, give me a second. 1, 2... 5 ant emojis. Ant farm. Okay, so rewind. On May 24th, 2024, Tumblr announced on their Labs account that the Communities feature had been released for open beta testing with, Christ on a stick, 5,800 communities on waitlist day 1, Jesus. Meanwhile, a group of friends in a Fallout group chat said, well, haha, this is a dumb feature, and on the fateful day of July 20th, 2024, the ant farm was made. Inspired by this Facebook group, the friends pretty much immediately jumped on the ant roleplay. Wife got squished. Screw my stupid ant life. I expect nothing less from you, my Tumblrinas. You have fed me well once again. Regardless, the early days of the community were quite slow, with only a handful of posts being made leading up until December, when the community really started picking up in activity. These quieter times were still very important for the colony, though, as it was when a lot of foundations were put into place for how the colony behaves. For instance, sending pictures of stock image foods with caption like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh hell yeah. Something very prevalent in ant culture is the comment, lift, on these types of posts, with the first instance of this behavior I found being on Gantrock's post of split fries in December. This is also the first instance I found in which ants talk in all caps. Truly fascinating. Anyways, Communities did not release as a true feature of Tumblr until December 12th, 2024, which, as stated, is exactly when the ant farm truly popped off. After this day, the colony actually started to be regularly active, with new larvae being born, ants joining the colony, and plenty of new food being collected. This is also about the time we start seeing less worker posting and more ants partaking in leisurely activities, like relaxing on mushrooms, and creating polls. Who did it better? Glorious Colony, or Stinky San Francisco? Not to brag, but I think we all know who did a better job. What are your thoughts on the current grain distribution system of the colony? Have you ever heard of ant marks? Now, the majority of people responding to this poll said that they would live by the queen or die by the queen, but this isn't the reason I bring this up. There's something far more interesting on this post. A comment, actually. One by an ant going by Big Sis. It reads, pay no mind to this, fellow ants. Works makes you happy. Queen good. Guard chambers. On patrol. Food. Smell stuff. That works. Same as always. Walk in line. This is interesting because directly after this was posted, Big Sis creates a post reinforcing the walk-in-line part. She's later established as a second hand to the supposed queen at the time, a queen whose identity is completely unknown at the moment. This is the first instance of Big Sis relaying this type of behavior, and I want you to keep it in mind for future events of the colony. Actually, scratch that. Control-Shift-T that thought back into your brain because nobody knows who the hell the queen is. Big Sis keeps promoting the walk-in-line propaganda and supposedly being the voice of the queen, and effectively offering rewards for people writing out any kind of, quote, counterculture sentiments and sympathies, end quote. Despite political unrest in the colony rising and Big Sis putting a lot of her efforts into keeping the workers in line, much of the regular colony shenanigans persisted. Guys, I found the scoop. And it smells really tasty. I'm bringing it back to the colony. Do not bring! Guess we gotta make our funeral place bigger now. Hi guys, I don't feel well. Maybe don't eat the goop. Should I call the ambulance? Yeah. Despite the fun and games, or breadcrumbs and sugar cubes, I guess I should say, people were really starting to get fed up with how the colony was being run, especially after the walk-in line became kind of a slogan for the colony. I'm gonna walk not in a straight line. Rebel maybe. Who knows? Ignore this post, 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 ignore this post. Antimoji, 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 antimoji. Walk in line. Though these problems weren't truly put into the spotlight until after Antmas with the loss of the queen. Antajampi Suliala pointed out that the queen, someone who many ants have never truly seen, was missing. This was about the time I joined the colony. I was immediately put on the search team the moment I was recruited, and I've never felt more hopeless for a cause of my life. We've never seen this queen. What if she wasn't real? Blasphemous. But Hansi-thays are dropping like flies. We need a change. We need a real queen. Oh, she's right there? Well, the pheromones don't lie, I suppose. Wait. What do you mean there's more people claiming to be queen? But there's only one queen. Are you crazy? You're right. Something is wrong here. We need to make up our minds. We all know what we need. Or, well, ant fishing in a graveyard knows what we need. An ant election. Despite the loyal nature of the colony leading up to this point and a very heavy walk-in line sentiment, most ants were shockingly open to the idea of an ant election, with many ants running for the position of queen, of which included Big Sister herself. She denounces the ant election, calling it a joke, announcing the queen is still alive and well, though directly after making a statement that there is no ant election at all. Also, she totally did not kill the queen. Ants did not believe this for a second. It did not help that one of the queens from earlier, Marie Antoinette, was found incredibly sickly that evening after confessing to be in hiding after Big Sister's aggressive propaganda, with heavy implications that Big Sister was the one to leave her in that sickly condition. It was later reported that Marie Antoinette was found dead. Now, for the first time in colony's history, ants were resisting the very idea of having a queen. Most ants were becoming attracted to the idea of an antarchy, or a civil servant for president. When candidates were decided, most popular choice was cat by biologists. Promoting the idea of traditional ant ways, community, lifting together, she claimed that her position as queen would be that of a civil servant, and that she would work among the masses, not over them. However, a lot of people still questioned the idea of a no-queen colony, or similar ideologies. Those in opposition of the antarchy state that a queen is necessary to give birth to new ants, and not just any ant is capable of that job. The queen can be equal to the other ants and not rule over them, utilizing a different method compared to our current leaders, but we still need a queen. Those in support of the antarchy think it's possible to have someone who fills the role of queen without being a queen, not embracing the oppressive and fascist mentality that Big Sister currently promotes, and without the hoarding of resources Marie Antoinette was known to do. Similarly, there's an antocracy that promotes essentially the same idea where the queen is no more different or special than the other workers. All ants have equally important roles in the colony, and will be able to vote on decisions including, but not limited to, food resources, relocation, expansion, and other stuff. The political turmoil continued through the New Year, and any celebrations within the colony were tense. I couldn't enjoy my New Year because my aunt kept yapping conspiracies about how the queen is alive and... Oh? Marie Antoinette is alive? Oh, but she stepped on as queen. Okay, whatever. And politics aside, the economy is absolutely booming at the moment. And 3,112 started selling aphids for 1 stone each, and many ants were commenting about their pet aphids and the honeydew they produce. Around this time, the Emporium and Bug Market also opened, selling all kinds of goods including clothing, rare foods, prosthetic limbs, shiny objects, the works. Breadcrumbs, the food widely distributed by the old queen, are used as the currency. Calling it stunts away how many communities are being made just to be a bug marketplace. In fact, a whole collection of communities has formed around the bug world, with one for bees and their hive, a newsletter for the whereabouts of the bug world, and even one for a vacation spot for ants called Ant Mountain. Speaking of Ant Mountain, certain members of the colony have been testing out the train route and investigating the area for a while, and on January 5th, it finally opened to the public for travel. However, before it opened, there was a bit of a wrench in their plans, as halfway through the ant election, not a shoplifter pointed out that Ant 2306 had come down with the fungal infection, something I can only assume is a reference to this post made about a week or so prior. This event sparked shock and terror among ants in the days to come, with particular distress put on Ant 3112, or Boopy X2, who was the operator of the mountain's train and was concerned that Not a Shoplifter, a passenger of theirs, was also infected. He decided to run over Not a Shoplifter with his train. And Ant 2306 while he was at it. Unfortunately, these efforts were in vain as Yoinky Boy, Queen! Ant 2,306 spread their fungal infection to Ant 3,485! And then, chaos. Ants were beginning to panic as the infection quickly morphed into a pandemic. Ant BoopyX2 identified the disease as a fungus called cordyceps that makes ants enter a zombie-like state and is contagious through contact due to the spores the mushrooms create. After this point, the ants started to take some more precautions and took regular checkups to make sure that they were not infected. And even when suffering through an ant apocalypse, political turmoil still hasn't come to a rest because the ant election still has some time left before the ballots close and the queen is decided. People have continued to point out that while it's possible for ants to be equal, we need someone to fill the role of queen, since we would die as a species without eggs, and it's a lofty request that we supply the colony with a substantial food while also letting all ants have children. Not to mention it's biologically impossible. And the final day of the ant election is a race pretty much exclusively between Catboy Biologist and going full antarchy. And, lo and behold, Catboy Biologist won! Big Sis, however, was not happy about this, and almost immediately after the election ended and the ballots were counted, she posted in the colony denying the ant election was ever official and anything more than a practical joke, then got shot dead. Immediately after becoming queen, Catboy Biologist was questioned about her plans revolving around the pandemic, with her responding that ants need to quarantine and stay away from other infected ants, and ordering those who refuse to quarantine be lifted out of the colony. During this time, a research team has formed for the express purpose of finding a cure for the fungus, to which they found some plants that can slow the rate of spreading. Sometime when the team were just narrowing down a cure, the queen had started to act particularly odd. Suddenly, her demeanor changed substantially, with all her text being in lowercase and suddenly calling off the quarantine. She calls the white fuzz caused by being infected in fashion, and any ant who disagrees should be sent to Chamber 3. Upon further inspection, Ant Unreality Escape discovered Chamber 3 was one of the graveyards. Y'all, I think you guys messed up. We should have done Antarchy. The infection was going to spread either way. I'm surprised it didn't hit the queen sooner. Antoinette or Catboy Biologist. Public enemy number 1 is now the queen, as people have now decided to try and kill her. These attempts are unsuccessful, as she is already pretty freaking dead, and walking around the colony's tunnels in a zombie-ish state, clearly late stage of the disease. Regardless of the queen's whereabouts, the rest of the colony is still covered to spores and infected to hell and back, so it's suggested we take BoopyX2's train and move to Ant Mountain, leaving the infected colony behind. After most ants started packing their things and a cure still in the works, many of the researchers suggested that we may have to enter battle to cure all the infected once the cure was actually sorted out. Ants, rightfully, were concerned over their home and what it would mean to start an attack on the infected and how that would affect the colony. But no time was wasted on semantics, and on January 10th of 2025, war broke out. This is for my family, and for the colony! Despite the valiant efforts of the colony thus far, it's become apparent that it's nowhere near enough, to the point where Snail Salts has returned to suggest that we may need to kill the infected en masse, and ask for any ideas. Later that day, a poll was sent out to the remaining alive members of the colony suggesting our options would be biblical flood, lighting them on fire, using pesticides, and hire an anteater. Despite the initial perception of the poll not shifting towards biblical flood, Snail Salts had already went ahead and built an ant-sized ark, like an ark, but ant-sized. For ants, which is not foreshadowing anything at all. At the same time, a cure had finally been found, and on January 11th, the research team put their sights on saving the queen. She was successfully cured, though left in an incapacitated state and unable to lead or fight. I can feel it. It's almost over. Everyone, I have a plan. Gather up. I need as much of the cure as possible. With the queen's consciousness successfully restored, though not back to 100% yet, Ant Yoinky Boy took it upon themselves to initiate the final blow to end the antfection. Now that the queen is cured, there is one last step. Everyone, go! I don't know if this will work, and if it doesn't, I don't think we can win. But if we don't try, we will lose anyways. I'm going to send out all the cure in one blast. This battle will never end if I don't do this. I must. I'm tired. I don't know what happened. There's people around me. Instead, they saved me. I see emergency powers to once in charge, just long enough to heal. They tell me I'm going somewhere safe. I rest now. We did it. And with that, the ant-fection has been defeated, the colony cured, and everyone returning to a normal life. Albeit a lot of ants needing some recovery time. And BBX2 announced that the queen is still in no shape to be serving, and thus we need a replacement queen for the time being. Others suggest that we impeach the queen entirely, as to them, she's not much more than a motivational speaker. Funnily enough, Queen Cowboy Biologist supports this, with her second-hand hyperfixation junkie later making an announcement that she would be stepping down and that a new ant election would be organized soon. Instead of being hosted on the colony, though, it's being hosted on Ant Mountain, which most ants at this time are moving to. For a brief period of time, things seem to be looking up for the colony. The ant-fection has been cured. Ants are moving to the much more stable location of Ant Mountain for their ant doings, and colony life seems to have returned to normal. Though, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, right! The mass destruction method used to kill the infected. Spoiler alert, biblical flood won the poll, and even though the masses have been cured, snail salts may or may not have already made plans to go through with the flood. Oh, we aren't doing the flood anymore? Oh crap. Harry hired some beavers to reroute the river. Oh crap, I'm getting fired. Did you lead the freaking river this way? Flood update. It does not look good. Maybe if we stand very still, the water won't be able to see us. Uh-oh. What? So yeah, anyone not living on Ant Mountain is probably feeling really stupid right about now. While most dedicated ants at this point have moved to Ant Mountain, the few still in the original colony are panicking, desperately trying to form rafts to escape to Ant Mountain, people trying to organize to go ask the beavers to reroute the river, but it's to no avail. An official evacuation post is made by Snail Salts urging all the ants to move to Ant Mountain. In all seriousness though, Snail Salts and the friend group that originally founded this community have been considering moving or deleting the community for a while at this point, as the community was originally made just for a quick goofing gag. When the community started to pop off, the moderators found themselves honored, but in no position to be keeping track of something of this caliber. So while the masses started moving to Ant Mountain, it is in lore due to the floods, the pandemic, the political unrest, everything I didn't talk about here. But in real life, it was because it was just the wrong place at the wrong time for those who started the community. We live together, whether it's breadcrumbs, sugar cubes, or the ants that need it. That's what being a colony is all about. And those kind enough to donate their time so we could live in the first place are no exception to this. All this goes to show that beautiful things aren't always made on purpose. The things that are the most fun aren't always planned, and what's the most memorable isn't always what you would think. Tomorrow is never promised, in real life or in the colony. So as the sun sets on the ant farm for the final time and the last train leaves for Ant Mountain, it's important that we remember the true lesson the ant farm taught us. Socialism is really freaking based.